Assalamu alaikum, and peace and blessings be on all of you. Ramadan Mubarak. I hope you and your families are doing well. The Muslim Association of Canada acknowledges Treaty 6 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Solito, Nakuta Sioux, as well as the Métis. We acknowledge our many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit brothers and sisters whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. We are grateful for their traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and who have gone before us. Thank you for joining us today for this special pre-Iftar program. Ramadan is a month that signifies both the social and spiritual time of the year. It brings family, friends, and community together in celebration, worship, and giving. This marks another year where Muslims had to physically distance themselves during this blessed month. However, we are united in our hearts in the true spirit of Ramadan. I'm sure many of us didn't think a year later we would still be having to observe and celebrate Ramadan under these conditions, myself included. But here we are. And what we have learned is that the Edmonton Muslim community is resilient and continues to find a way to hold on to our traditions in the most challenging of times. We know that COVID-19 has placed a great strain on the mental health of individuals, families, and children, with increased levels of stress, anxiety, and isolation. Faith spaces like Max Rahma Mosque play a critical role in responding to the needs of the community and contributing to the well-being of community members. Reopening mosques gradually has been key in increasing coping and resiliency as we continue to deal with mental health challenges. We would like to recognize the province for understanding this and allowing mosques to do so in a safe manner. Tonight, we are honored to be joined by some great speakers. We have the Honorable Premier of Alberta, Jason Kenney, MLA Mohammed Yasin, MLA Mickey Amery, and Minister Aheer. Before we begin, I would like to ask Brother Ali Asaf, Board Member and Vice Chair of the Muslim Association of Canada, to start us off with the recitation of the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداع إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون. Now I'll read the interpretation. Apologize for the voice. I'll use the same excuse as Sister Muna, lack of water. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. O believers, fasting is prescribed for you as it was for those before you, so perhaps you will become mindful of God. Fast prescribed number of days, but whenever or whoever of you is ill or on a journey, then let them fast an equal number of days after Ramadan. For those who can only fast with extreme difficulty, compensation can be made by feeding a needy person for every day not fasted. But whoever volunteers to give more, it is better for them, and to fast is better for you if you only knew. Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed as a guide for humanity with clear proofs of guidance and the standard to distinguish between right and wrong. So whoever is present this month, let them fast. But whoever is ill or on a journey, then let them fast an equal number of days after Ramadan. God intends ease for you, not hardship, so that you may complete the prescribed period and proclaim the greatness of God for guiding you. And perhaps you will be grateful. When my servants ask you, O Prophet, about me, I am truly near. I respond to one's prayer when they call upon me. So let them respond with obedience to me and believe in me. Perhaps they will be guided to the right way.
Thank you, Brother Ali, for that beautiful recitation. Next, I would like to introduce the Executive Director of MAC National, Brother Sharafuddin. Brother Sharaf is a husband, father, and leading community organizer. He is among the founding generation and pioneers who shaped the Islamic work in Canada. As the founding member of the Muslim Association of Canada, he has been part of the organization from its inception, and currently he serves as the Executive Director, and under his leadership, the organization grew to become the largest Muslim organization in the country. Prior to the establishment of MAC, he contributed to developing diverse Muslim communities through various leadership positions in different Muslim organizations like Muslim American Society and the Muslim Arab Youth Association. He's an engineer by profession and completed his MBA from the University of Ottawa. He lives in Mississauga, Ontario, and is the proud father of 4. Welcome, Brother Sharaf.
Thank you. Bismillah. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Ramadan Kareem, and thank you all for joining us today. It's nice to see you again, Premier Kenney, and all of our members of the legislature. I am really proud of the work of the Muslim Association of Canada has accomplished over the last 20 years, and especially the work we have been doing in Alberta. The year the community grassroots work has helped MAC engage in the pandemic when it hits everyone. And a lot of programs that MAC did was right across the country, from food insecurity to address food insecurity with mental health and community spiritual support and services. From the beginning of the pandemic, MAC has been on mobilizing its grassroots base and pool resources to be part of proactive community response. For example, our coast-to-coast food share program, virtual programs, blood drives, and mosque reopening best practice. Over the last several years, MAC leadership has good relationship with governments in Alberta. And Premier, you have been a strong partner with community organization, including MAC. And we really appreciate that your government has been listening and working with us. There are some important accomplishments that deserve to be acknowledged. For the faith-based and independent schools, we really appreciate and we thank you again for supporting this sector by repealing the previous government's bill 24. Also, we appreciate the ongoing fund our schools receive, and we look forward for doing more, including looking at ways to offer full funding to faith-based schools. The pandemic has been hard on all of us, but your government has recognized the role of the community organization in responding to the pandemic. And I want to thank your government for working with MAC to reopen places of worship. Actually, people of Alberta are much more lucky than we are in Ontario when it comes to this. As we focus on the vaccination rollout, MAC has launched a pop-up clinic in Ontario, working with the Premier Ford. we are ready to use our experience and centers in Edmonton, Calgary, and Cold Lake to support and protect Albertans. Premiums, you and your team has offered leadership for province. As you know, the Muslim community, especially Muslim women, has experienced growing Islamophobia and hate across Canada. We are hoping to see your government offer stronger preventative measures, but also enforcement around hate crime and hate-motivated incidents. Canadians should never feel fear because of the faith they practice or because they are a visible minority. Once again, thank you, Premier, for seeing MAC as a key partner as your government works to do better for Albertans. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Sharaf. MAC is truly an organization that is committed to supporting the Muslim community here within Canada. And although, Brother Sharaf, I have immense respect for you, I just have to say the Oilers are going to beat the Maple Leafs in the playoffs, inshallah.
I like I like the Oriole, so I'm fine.
I would now like to introduce you to the principal of MAC Edmonton Islamic School, Mariam Hashmi. Mariam was born in Calgary and raised in Edmonton, and she's passionate about education within the Islamic environment. Her entire my apologies. Can't blame that on fasting, unfortunately. She is passionate about education within an Islamic environment. Her entire teaching career has been spent in private Islamic schools here in Canada and the United States. Welcome, Mariam.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening, Honorable Premier Kenney, esteemed MLAs, Brother Sharaf, and our dedicated MAC team. On behalf of the MAC Islamic School community, we are honored by your presence, and we appreciate the time you all have taken from your busy schedules to join us this evening. It's great to have this opportunity to connect with you all. We truly appreciate your ongoing support for independent faith-based schools. As Muna mentioned, I'm the principal of MAC Islamic School, and my name is Mariam Hashmi. I'm a true Albertan, as she mentioned, born in Calgary and raised in Edmonton. I've been an educator for the past 26 years, but I'm so blessed to be an educator in Alberta. And Premier, it's a blessing to be in a province that supports independent faith-based schools. This is our beloved school's 8th year of operation. We've grown exponentially over the past few years. Currently, we're serving over 450 students from preschool to grade 9. At MAC Islamic School, we embody the values our fellow Albertans cherish. Moreover, we rise to excel in all that we do with God consciousness, integrity, service, and excellence. More specifically, at MAC Islamic School, we have an amazing fusion of Alberta Education's program of studies with our iRise faith-based character education. iRise is infused in our daily routines and curriculum. iRise is a proactive approach to promoting excellence and leadership, thereby laying the foundation for positive mental health. It's also an avenue for us to develop innovative growth mindset, academic excellence, and exemplary citizenship. As a result, the culture and climate of our beloved school is welcoming, respectful, nurturing, and empowering. Take a walk in our hallways, and you will see our students and staff engaged in a productive learning environment, and you'll feel the love. But as I say, the proof's in the pudding. Our enrollment numbers continue to rise, which is a testament to the service we are providing our community. Our strength is that we all work as a team. As they say, it takes a village to raise a child. Premier, we are so grateful that you and your government are a part of our village, supporting us to raise exemplary citizens, exemplary Albertans. Our students excel in daily academics and provincial achievement testing. We value community service and honor the rich cultural history of our First Nations people in our beloved province. You know, we view challenges such as COVID as opportunities to learn and grow and become united. This is a time for us to show compassion to others, develop resilience so that we can continue to soar. Refining our practices at school has taught us all the importance of flexibility and patience. And this has reminded us to focus on the positive, and most of all, to count our blessings. We are so blessed in so many ways. The MAC Islamic School community is ever so appreciative to live in a province in which we share common values. It's important to note that our school is aligned with the Ministerial Order number 28 on student learning, which lays the foundation of the Alberta education. It's apparent that our thinking and daily practices are aligned with knowledge development, character development, and community engagement, as presented in Ministerial Order number 28. Premier Kenney and esteemed MLAs, we're so grateful for your ongoing support for independent, faith-based schools. Moreover, we ask that you continue to support independent schools and provide us with funding equal to public schools and Catholic schools, as MAC Islamic School is a valuable part of Alberta's beautiful cultural mosaic. We look forward to more virtual and in-person gatherings. And Premier, we welcome you to visit our beloved school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariam. Being a parent of 3 school-age children who actually attend MIS, I certainly appreciate the right for parents to have a schooling system that respects and honors their religious identity. Next, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Premier Jason Kenney. Our Premier was first elected in 1997 as MP and since then has held multiple ministerial portfolios and positions. In 2017, Premier Kenney was elected the leader of Alberta's PCs with a mandate to reunite the province's conservative movement. He then helped to lead the creation of the new United Conservative Party. And in April 2018, he held his party to an election victory with 55% of the popular vote. On behalf of the Muslim Association of Canada, we would like to welcome and thank you, Premier Kenney, for accepting our invitation to join us here tonight. You have been a great supporter of Rahma Mosque and MAC here in Edmonton. Welcome, Premier Kenney.
Thank you so much, Muna. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and Ramadan Mubarak. I'm so happy to be here with Minister Aheer and members of the legislature, Muhammad Yasin and Mickey Amery, and to join with you for this virtual Iftar. Let us hope it's please be the last Ramadan that you have to observe virtually away from the community and away from so many friends and loved ones. So let me just start by saying a word of profound admiration that is truly heartfelt for me to Muslims on their observance of the Ramadan fast. In my Catholic tradition, we have a fasting tradition at some times of the year, like Lent, and I think these things have common spiritual roots. And in fact, if you study, as I did, the classical philosophy like that of Aristotle, you realize that virtue is largely based on developing the habit of controlling our appetites. And that is exactly what you do in a profound way in the holy month of Ramadan. As the recitation of the Quran said, perhaps you will become mindful of God through the fast of Ramadan. And that is a denial of earthly things, of the control of our appetites, to put the first things first, which are spiritual truths and our spiritual, and in case of Muslims, your spiritual relationship with God. And so as a person of faith, I'm just deeply filled with admiration for the spiritual discipline that you exercise and demonstrate. You know, in an increasingly secularized society where there are growing voices of hostility towards faith in general, we know often those are directed particularly at Islam, but I would beg you to understand that many faith communities feel increasingly as though they are marginalized in our culture. And I think all people of faith need to come together in solidarity and to share what is best about our traditions in Canada's pluralistic culture. And you please know that you do that. Our Muslim friends, in ways that are small and not boastful, but are discreet and sincere, demonstrate throughout the fast to your non-Muslim friends the strength of your faith and your willingness to make great personal sacrifices and go through real physical discomfort to maintain your fidelity to higher truths. And I just am always so deeply impressed by the example that you give. Thank you, Sharaf, for your kind words, and to Muslim Association of Canada for your good work in so many ways in the masjids that you help to operate, in the Islamic schools, in the good works and charitable endeavors, in ways large and small that you help people, especially those most in need. And thank you, Mariam, to you and all of your volunteers, teachers, board of directors, and everybody involved in the essential work of education in a way that's consistent with your Islamic faith and traditions. You don't have to worry, I assure you, you don't have to worry about the future of support for faith-based education in this province at least as long as I'm premier. It is one of the policies, one of the principles that really drives me in my political vocation. My own father was an independent school headmaster, and one of the really core convictions for me is that, we hear a lot about diversity in Canadian politics. It's become, frankly, almost meaningless, a meaningless cliche. It's so often referred to. But for me, diversity, real diversity, can't just be a sort of superficial celebration of different cultural origins. Real pluralism respects diversity of belief, and doesn't just respect it and tolerate it, but empowers communities to transmit their most deeply held values where it is most important, and that is in the education system. Now, let me be very blunt. There are very influential and powerful interest groups who would like to do away with any public support for faith-based schools. And I don't mean to introduce a point of controversy here, but I want you to understand that you need to defend the wonderful support that you have in Alberta, which is far more robust than any other Canadian province for faith-based education, and to use this as a kind of example for other Canadian provinces to fully live out what was intended at Confederation. When I first became a member of Parliament 24 years ago, I'm getting old, see those white hairs? When I first became a member of the federal parliament, one of the very first major issues that emerged on the agenda at that time was a proposal to eliminate the constitutional protection for confessional or religious faith-based education in the province of Quebec, and then very shortly thereafter, the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. These provisions were written into the Constitution as a necessary condition of the negotiations of the bargain that was Confederation in the 1860s. Because in those days, we may have had a very few number of Muslims in Canada. We certainly didn't have any Muslim schools, but we did have large religious minorities in Ontario and English Canada who were Catholics, and we had a large religious minority in Quebec who were Protestants. And they wanted a constitutionally guaranteed right to access schools consistent with their faith. And that was inscribed in the original Compact of Confederation. In the case of Quebec, Section 93, in the case of Newfoundland, in their Articles of Confederation. Unfortunately, in the late 1990s, there was an effort to secularize completely the school system and to remove those constitutional guarantees. And one of the arguments used at the time was that these guarantees were obsolete, that they no longer reflected the diversity and pluralism of today's Canada, that they no longer reflected the religious diversity of the country. And my point was, no. The principle is a constitutional recognition that parents have a right to choose the form of education that's best for their children, including and especially when it is informed by a faith tradition. And instead of limiting those rights, we ought to expand them to include all religious minority communities, as Alberta has done now for the better part of 30 years. So I just want to encourage you, Miriam, for you and your team to know what you do every day matters to your students and your parents. But for me, it's a beautiful expression of what is truest and best about our pluralism. So please continue in that direction with our enthusiastic support. You talked about your culture in the school of promoting God consciousness, service, integrity, excellence, all of it leading to exemplary citizenship. That was one of the most beautiful things I've heard in a long time. And I've visited many of the Muslim schools in Alberta, and I'd love to visit yours to see that in action. And let me just make one other point. Sorry that you really got me going on education here. But as you know, we have released a draft, a kindergarten to grade 6 curriculum. It's not perfect, and we look forward to your input and that of other independent schools on how we can improve it. But I just want to signal that there is significantly more content in that draft curriculum about Islam than in any curriculum we've seen in Alberta education history. And in fact, there is so much content about great world religions in that draft curriculum that it's been criticized by some of the people who, as I said, I think are becoming increasingly intolerant of religious belief in our society. So I encourage you to draw your attention to that and please support that kind of, starting, I think, in that curriculum, grade 1, introducing children to different faith traditions, as well as the commonalities of the great monotheistic Abrahamic faiths. So with that, let me close by thanking you, Muslim Association of Canada, but all Muslims in Alberta, for the great care that you have shown one another throughout the pandemic. The public health restrictions and measures are incredibly difficult. They all entail real sacrifices. And Muna, you're right that they can lead to a sense of, amongst many people, of isolation and consequent mental and emotional health challenges. One of the central parts of your faith is community worship, is the Ummah coming together to submit yourself to God and to pray collectively. And the fact that this has been limited and at times interrupted is, for me, a particular loss. But we have done, please recognize, we've done our best to allow for at least limited congregational worship. And we're the only province that has continued to do so throughout the pandemic. Because in my view our view is that we've had to impair the exercise of certain rights to achieve the higher good of the protection of human life. But that impairment must be limited. It must be a limited impairment. And you've exercised that. I believe that I've not heard of any mosques in Alberta that have, at least not intentionally, violated any of the public health rules. Thank you for being a good example. Thank you for putting the lives of the vulnerable first. Thank you in so doing and giving practical expression to the highest values of your Islamic faith. And with that, I wish all of you celebrating, or rather marking and observing the holy month of Ramadan, I wish you strength through the fast. I wish that you and your families will gather spiritual fruit at this time. And I look forward to celebrating with you virtually this year, but in person next year, Eid al-Fitr. So Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Premier Kenney, for those kind, thoughtful, and thought-provoking words. Just like to echo what you said, your sentiment about how we're all in this together. I know it's kind of becoming cliche after a year, but speaking to all of us that identify as faith groups, whatever that may be, we have much more in common than we do differences. And to celebrate that and to hold on to that is really key. And I think, speaking for myself, and I think for many of us here, that really is what the pandemic has showed us, is that when we pull together, the sun will rise. The sun will rise again, and we'll be there. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to welcome MLA Mohammed Yasin. Mohammed Yasin was elected to the Legislative Assembly of Alberta on April 16, 2019. He also serves as the Parliamentary Secretary for Immigration. Prior to serving with the Legislative Assembly, Amery Yasin worked in the oil industry for almost 40 years, starting his career in 1979 with Texaco Canada and working the last 30 years with Imperial Oil. An engineer by profession, he's experienced in reservoir joint ventures, engineering, and has held advisory roles for processing, transportation, contracts, and projects. Amery Yasin is an active member of his community, volunteering with Canadian Red Cross and the Pakistan Canadian Association for many years. Welcome, Amery Yasin.
Well, thank you very much, Mona, Mariam, Sharaf, and Muslim Association of Canada for inviting me to this iftar, along with Honorable Premier Kenney and my colleague, Amery. Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak. It is wonderful that we can celebrate our diversities and recognize the contribution that Islamic community, along with others, has made to our country's economy, society, and culture. There are many contributions that have been made by Alberta Muslims to society at large, such as Professor Naveed Sayed from the University of Calgary, whose lab pioneered neuron chip interfacing technologies to monitor brain cell activities. Feminists Helvi Hamdan and Leela Feldman, who contributed much to Edmonton and now have schools named after them. Muslims have achieved many firsts here in Alberta. Canada's first mosque was established in Alberta. Canada's first Muslim provincial cabinet minister was from Alberta. Canada's first Muslim MP from Alberta. Canada's first Muslim mayor is from Alberta. Canada's first Muslim lieutenant governor now is from Alberta. Alberta is proud of its diversity.
Mohammed, I just want to make sure Sharaf heard all of that. We're well ahead of you guys in Ontario.
Thank you. Alberta is proud of its diversity, and as Albertans, we recognize that our differences are actually our strengths. Having the freedom to practice our religious beliefs and celebrating each other's cultural festivities is what makes Alberta uniquely great, and I'm so proud of it. Ramadan, to Alberta families celebrating Ramadan, we know that this year feels different yet again. I know personally how difficult it is that you cannot come out together for nightly iftar dinners, gather for communal prayers in mosques, and organize charitable activities like the ones that usually take place because of restrictions at the places of worship. But I also know that safely celebrating Ramadan, virtually or in spirit, has meaningful purpose to those who observe. Muslims Albertans are adapting to this change, bringing together virtual mosques and hosting online iftars, refocusing their charitable efforts towards those hit hardest by COVID-19, regardless of their faith, and praying for and honoring the lives of all those who have perished. While challenges come with fasting, Muslims will keep doing what they have been doing before and during this pandemic, leading on frontline every single day. Alberta's Muslims are doctors, nurses, first responders, scientists, lawyers, small business owners, retail workers, and more. They dedicate themselves to serving our province and fighting the battle against COVID-19 day in and day out. This Ramadan, I wish all Muslims across Canada the holy month of Ramadan, with the joys of families, communities, and peace and understanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amery Yasin, for those beautiful words and for also highlighting how Alberta is better than Ontario. I really appreciated that part. Next, I would like to introduce you to another friend and advocate for the Muslim community, Amery. Mickey Amery was elected as a member of the Legislative Assembly for the area of Calgary Cross on April 16, 2019. Prior to serving with the Legislative Assembly, Mr. Amery was a practicing lawyer and a business owner in Calgary. He has worked on a number of cases of national significance in the areas of Aboriginal law and consumer protection. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science, a bachelor's degree in economics, and a Juris Doctorate degree in law. Active in his community, he served as a director for the Learning of Disability Association of Alberta and is a member of various local community boards and organizations. He and his wife have 2 sons and a daughter. Welcome, Amery.
Good evening and assalamu alaikum to all of you, and thank you very much for having me here. Sister Mona, that was a beautiful introduction, and once again, thank you to the Premier and my colleagues and each and one of you for coming this evening to recognize the importance of this event and to talk a little bit about the things that really impact Muslims during Ramadan and especially during COVID. I think it's an incredibly opportune time to address some of the issues. And the Premier, you talked about a bunch of those things, and my friend Muhammad Yasin had as well. And Miriam, I commend all the work that you're doing up in Edmonton. We are incredibly proud of you as a very strong Muslim sister heading an incredible organization. My nieces and nephews go to that school as well, and there's nothing but good things to say about them. I want to reiterate to everyone here and everyone watching that it was truly a fundamental commitment of this government to ingrain faith-based systems in our province, because we know how incredibly important they play for our community, for our children, and for their province in general. And the Premier has said it best, but he said it many times. And I think it needs to be said here again today. Sorry, Premier, you didn't say this, but parents and not government need to be the ones that are the ultimate determining individuals for how our children are raised and what they learn. And I think that as a father of 3 young children, as you said, Sister Mona, 2 beautiful boys and a gorgeous daughter, this is a message that I can truly get behind and support. And I know that all Muslims in our community do support the importance of faith-based systems in our province, and our government is unequivocally behind that concept as well. There's been a lot of discussion about COVID, and we're here celebrating the second and hopefully the last of these virtual Iftar celebrations. And we talk a lot about COVID and about the impacts of COVID, but I do want to talk a little bit about the blessings of COVID. I want to talk about the things that we've seen in our community that I think are incredibly important as well. First and foremost, I want to suggest to all of you that it has strengthened our faith. It has provided us with an incredible amount of information about how fragile and how important life is. It has improved our resolve, and it has highlighted that life is precious, that life is fragile, and that, tragically, it can be taken from us very quickly. It has strengthened our devotion to our religion, to our parents, to the elderly around us, and to our neighbors. And we hear of all these incredible stories from both within the community and elsewhere about organizations and people doing amazing charitable things in their communities and helping their neighbors and the people around them, the most vulnerable, get through this pandemic. And I think that really underscores the concept of Ramadan, the concept of Islam, and just the general character of our province and of our country. It has strengthened our unity, and it has strengthened our charity as well. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the organizations and how they've really stepped up. I know that MAC has done a tremendous amount of work, and we've heard a little bit about that today, but also the organizations here in our province, the Al Rashid Mosque, the Al Rahma Mosque, who have done unbelievable things for their communities. And, again, shamelessly, I want to advocate for Calgary as well, because the Akram Jum'ah Center, the Muslim Council of Calgary, a number of organizations have just done some amazing things, charitable events and food hamper deliveries, hot meal programs, counseling services, you name it. They've really come together to help our fellow Canadians and our fellow Albertans, irrespective of what religion they are. And that really highlights how incredible our Muslim community is. I am incredibly proud of the work that our Muslim communities have done during this pandemic. And I'm equally proud to hear of all the collaboration and the support that our Muslim communities and organizations and the government of Alberta have been doing as well. I can tell you guys from firsthand experience that our Premier has been an incredible supporter of the Muslim community. and will continue to do so. And I'm incredibly proud to be part of this group of individuals who have embraced our community, and hopefully we see so much more in the future. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a lot of work to be done, but I am incredibly proud of what we've accomplished so far, and I'm looking forward to what the future holds for all of us. Ramadan Kareem, thank you all for being here tonight. Hopefully we get past this pandemic and we can celebrate together next year, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Emily, Mickey, Amery, and thank you so much for highlighting the positives that have come out, because that's a very important piece as well, right? That we recognize that there are positives, and that certainly is what's going to motivate us to continue and to go forward. So thank you so much. Last but not least, we have Minister Leela Aheer. Minister Leela Aheer was first elected as an MLA in 2015. Born in Edmonton and raised in Chestermere, she is raising her family. Minister Aheer is a proud wife and mother of 2 boys. Prior to entering politics, Minister Aheer was a professional vocal coach and music teacher who instructed singing in 7 languages and owned and operated businesses as an entrepreneur, and was heavily involved in the arts, volunteerism, and community service. Minister Aheer was appointed as Alberta's Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism, and Status of Women on April 30th, 2019. Minister Aheer wanted to be here with us tonight, but unfortunately she had a prior commitment, but she was gracious enough to record a few words for us all to hear tonight.
Good evening. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that Alberta is on Treaty 6, 7, and 8 territory, and this land also holds a very, very deep importance for the Métis people of Alberta. I'm so honored to join you for Iftar tonight. I remember joining the Muslim Association of Canada last year for a virtual event. Sometimes it's really hard to believe that a whole year has gone by since then. We've all learned a great deal, haven't we, about the importance of community. We've found incredible new ways to come together and share our faith and our culture. And I'm continuously inspired by the way the Muslim communities have adapted their Ramadan traditions, including broadcasting the call to prayer on loudspeakers and meeting outside in small groups for prayer, or delivering those delicious meals to those in need. Through it all, the Muslim communities have been an amazing source of support for each other and for Alberta as a whole. You've shown how, with dedication and devotion, people can practice their faith and follow public health measures to keep each other safe. For me, virtual gatherings such as this one are a beacon of hope and connection. And it's a constant reminder that even if we're apart, it doesn't mean that we are alone. I hope that this is a lesson we can all take forward through the next year and beyond. So thank you so much to MAC, all of your staff, your volunteers, your members for coming together tonight, and especially for inviting me to participate. Ramadan Kareem.
Thank you, Minister Aheer. We wish you were here with us as well, but we certainly appreciate those words. To close our program, I would like to invite Yasin Setin to provide a closing remarks and a prayer in English. Yasin was born and raised in Edmonton, and it's a city that he feels passionately about and loves. He sits with the City of Edmonton's Guiding Coalition on Public Engagement and is excited to see his city grow and progress. He works with the Edmonton Police Service in the area of community outreach, engagement, and relationship building. Yasin has been active with MAC for almost 15 years. He has worked with MAC youth locally and nationally on multiple projects. Yasin is still active with local youth work, but also sits with the Community Outreach Engagement Department as well as a MAC Youth Junior. Most importantly, he's single. Now, I think Yasin was having some trouble connecting and with his audio and video, so I'm actually just going to read his statement here. Thank you to all of our guests and speakers. I wanted to close with a few reflections. One is around resiliency. I want to acknowledge and, more importantly, thank our community for their commitment to keeping safe and healthy, and also keeping the spirit of Ramadan alive in their homes. Whether you are participating in any number of the MAC's programming, coming to the MAC Center, or your local mosque to listen to the adhan, we encourage you to keep Ramadan alive in your hearts. The second is around thankfulness. I wanted to extend thanks to our wider community, including the City of Edmonton administration and the council, for their support of the adhan. We came together around a goal of being an inclusive city that supports the ways communities gather, worship, and celebrate. The Adhan is now a permanent part of the city of Edmonton's landscape, and we are so proud that Edmontons can join in the hearing and the many unique and beautiful Adhans throughout our city. We hope to continue working with all levels of government to continue shaping inclusive cities and inclusive province. With that, I'd like to close with a prayer. I'd like to close with this dua. Let us pray. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, our sustainer and our guide. Guide us to the pure convictions that inspire us and the courage to match those convictions. We pray for peace, not war, love, not hate, benevolence, not greed, unity, not division, and we pray for protection from the actions that contradict our convictions. May we honor one another, glorify you together, and inspire the world to be better. Let us be the light we seek from you. Amen. I'd like to thank our panel of speakers and to our viewers for tuning in. We hope to see you again. Stay safe. Assalamu alaikum.